I'm going to go ahead with the meeting beginning ritual.
起立，面向佛堂，参加三鞠躬、一鞠躬、再鞠躬、三鞠躬，参加各位点传是一鞠躬，开班一鞠躬，请坐下。Please be seated. Let me preface today's talk on Symphony 9 by saying that when we talk about the individual lines and the characters, I try to strike the right balance between the Tao Te Ching itself plus elements from Chinese culture that I believe you probably have no opportunity to be exposed to otherwise. The complexity of the Tao Te Ching isn't so much in the words, but in the cultural embedding of the Tao concepts. So that's where you can get more insights into the Tao. There are times when people who study the Tao will say that my translation is too simplistic. Let me explain why. Western readers who have no knowledge of Chinese will oftentimes gravitate to authors who make things mysterious or profound. When you peel back the layers, though, for instance, if you have a chance to actually live in Asia, if you have a chance to actually study classical Chinese and decrypt it for yourself, then you will come to the conclusion yourself that these Western authors that make everything mysterious and profound are engaged in a lot of BS. So I don't say that lightly. I don't say that in a frivolous way. Some of these authors are really good at saying what people want to hear. As Westerners themselves, they know that other Westerners will be looking for the profound and mysterious Orient, so they provide that in spades. The reality is that Lao Tzu, at the time that he wrote the Tao Te Ching, wanted to present something that everyone can understand. Some of the concepts are counterintuitive, no doubt about it, but they can be easily explained so that they become very clear. So I'm afraid that the people who mistakenly assume the Tao must be complex, profound, mysterious, and then therefore my translation must be too simplistic, I'm sorry. That's a completely mistaken notion. The authors, and I actually know the work of these authors who make things complicated. I know them quite well. They fall into all kinds of traps that people are not even aware of. One particular one writes under a pseudonym, a pen name. His real name is Bill Porter. He lived in Taiwan for a while. He was the radio disc jockey for an English station. That was his job, and he used his income for his passion, which was to study classical Chinese. Now, he got to a certain point. He got to a certain level of understanding, and he was unfortunately not in a good position to judge the good material from the bad. He lacked a cultural context. So when he later on wrote about the Tao, including his own translation, it's got just a huge amount of mistakes. Now, his readers don't mind. His readers who don't understand the original, they will say, "Oh, this translation is so beautiful, so inspiring." Well, that beauty and inspiration comes from the author's own ability to write beautifully, to write things that Westerners want to hear, that give a feeling of the Oriental mystique. So, there's more I can say about that. This particular author latched on to a Chinese professor who came up with a crackpot theory about the Tao being all about moon worship. Well, that professor had no idea what he was talking about. His theory was discredited. He was just a horrible example of academia. Was known to be violent to his students. Became a Christian later on and started to go on a crusade to criticize Buddhism, arguing that Christianity was the only true religion. All kinds of incredible crap associated with moon worship, and that theory is based on cherry picking of passages from the Tao Te Ching. So I got to tell you, most people, most Western readers reading about the Tao Te Ching have no idea how far off the mark most of these authors are. All I can do is just to create and present a better version in the hopes that in time, the accurate, authentic Tao will slowly but surely replace, frankly, the Western BS that's being produced. That's so commonplace out there. Okay, anyhow, I'm going to jump off my soapbox. Let me talk about chapter 79. Tao Te Ching, chapter 79. After settling a great dispute, there must be remaining resentments. How can this be considered good? Therefore, the sage holds the left parts of the contract, but does not demand payment from the other person. Those who have virtue hold the contract. Those without virtue hold the collections. The Heavily Dow has no favorites. It constantly gives to the kind people. So I want to draw everyone's attention to the last two lines. The Heavenly Dow has no favorites. This is an echo from the Pinyin Jing that we looked at last Sunday, where it talks about how the Tao has no feelings, no preferences, and that's exactly from this particular line here. This line, the Heavenly Tao has no favorites. This was written more than 1,000 years before the Pinyin Jing was written. So the other part is the seeming paradox. The Heavenly Tao has no favorites, so why does it give to the kind people? It seems like the Heavenly Tao plays favorites in favoring kind people, so kind people get the good things in life. How come? Isn't that a contradiction? Well, it's actually not. It makes perfect sense, and I hope to demonstrate that. For now, though, you know what's coming up next. We need to look at the Chinese characters. We look for similarities from line to line, and then we mark the similar characters to help us look into the hidden structure of the Tao Te Ching. So, can anyone look at the Chinese characters and see similar characters from one line to the next? I see that in this particular chapter, we don't have a whole lot of repeating characters, but we do have some. And here they are. As you can see, we've got line 6 and line 7, 2 repeating characters. The first of the repeating characters, de, that means virtue. And then si, the third character, that means to hold. So virtue hold are the translations for those. Now you can tell that 6 and 7 belong together as a couplet. Those who have virtue hold the contract. Those without virtue hold the collections. Those are together. So that means there's a line between 7 and 8. So the bottom 2 lines belong together as well. Heavenly Tao has no favorites. It constantly gives to the kind people. That makes sense. So there's a line between 5 and 6 as well. And then you can tell just by reading, just by comprehension, that 4 and 5 belong together. It talks about the sages. They hold the left part of the contract, but does not demand payment. So those belong together, which means 1, 2, and 3 belong together. So it looks like this. Here's the hidden structure of the Tao Te Ching. So 1, 2, and 3, that's one thought. You know, after an argument, after a dispute, it doesn't matter that you shake on it at the very end of it, that you hug it out. There's still going to be some leftover negative feelings. And then we've got the sage's behavior. We've got statements about those who have and have no virtue. And then we have the conclusion about the Tao itself. So let's go ahead and take a look at the first part. The first part is important. I think it's actually the only one that we're going to have time to get to today. So the summary for 79 is not going to make a whole lot of sense except for the first summary point. And it's about this character, he. It's the first character of line 1. What is that? What does that mean? In pinyin, it's spelled He. So, you know, as an English speaker, you'll look at that and say, oh, he. No, remember, the pinyin system is really not very good and provides all kinds of misleading guidance when it comes to pronunciation of what characters actually sound like. So when you want to sound this out in modern Mandarin, it's he. So it sounds more like he. So it definitely does not sound like he. That's it's supposed to depict he, but unless you have formal training in pinyin, in the pinyin system, you're not going to know how to make that sound. What does it mean? It means harmonious or to create harmony. So it can be an adjective where it means harmonious. It can be a verb, which means to create harmony. To create harmony in the context of a dispute means to settle the dispute. So both sides can come away with something. So the concept of harmony occupies a central place in both Chinese and Japanese culture. And it's a frequently used character in modern Mandarin, especially in combination with other characters. So we'll probably just do one slide about how this character is normally used so I can provide some context in Chinese culture about this particular Mandarin character. And then next time, I will also do examples from Japanese culture. So first of all, here we have two characters, 和平. So pinyin looks like he ping, but it's actually he. So it sounds more like 和平. And the meaning is peace. So ping means level. So if it's harmonious and level meaning, you know, like the scales of justice is level. So there's justice and fairness for all. That means peace. Everybody's at peace. So there's harmony, and then there's fairness. That's peace. So now you know, 和平 in Mandarin means peace is composed of harmony and fairness. Then we have 世界和平. Here's the pinyin. And English speaker will look at this and probably say she, ji, or maybe jai, he, ping, and that's going to be really off. It's 世界和平. It sounds more like that. So we already know 和平 means peace. 世界, that means world. So 世界 is a relatively modern term. You will not see 世界 in the Tao Te Ching itself, because that was from 2,500 years ago. So in classical, ancient Chinese, when you say the world, you say 天下. you say everything below heaven. You don't say 世界. 世界 is more of a modern term. Okay, so that's all the time we have today. Summary, what are some takeaways from this chapter? Well, we've done only part of the discussion on 和, which means harmony. So incorporate harmony, 和, into your life. Look for harmony, and you will find it. Be the peacemaker. Be the one who brings peace to any situation, including potentially contentious situations. Be the one who makes peace. Be the one who calms everybody down, who diffuses an explosive situation. Be the person of peace, the peacemaker. So the other points, we will probably make a lot more sense when we get into the rest of 79. So we're done with today's discussion. Let's go ahead and do the meeting ending ritual, everybody. 起立，面向佛堂，持架深鞠躬，一鞠躬，再鞠躬，三鞠躬，持架各位顶传十一鞠躬，斜翻一鞠躬。We're done, everybody. Thank you so much.